Good morning, everyone. Do you remember the other day when I told you that one science ship cost ballooned from $108 million in 2008 to $1 billion today? Well, this Navy warship program says, hold my beer, $77 billion. Jumps to $77 billion. So we need a very, very expensive science vessel and $77 billion spending on warships. It makes sense. Canada has long prioritized naval superiority, with the government supporting General Mark Norman's creation of the asterisks, right? Everybody loved that it was on time and under budget, and nothing bad happened to Mr. Norman. Righto. That's exactly it. We need $77 billion. Could we get an itemized list of the spending? I would love to see what we're spending. How much does Irving get? Just out of the 77 billion ballpark. We could do percentage. Is it 77%? Okay. Military probe into Vance allegations expands to unprecedented levels. This is a few days ago, right? This is the 22nd. Did the unprecedented levels include this guy? Canada's new top military commander, Admiral Art MacDonald, has voluntarily stepped aside as he is investigated by the Canadian Forces National Investigation Service on unspecified allegations. He was appointed just over 2 months ago. Huh. Isn't that weird? There's a lot of unspecified allegations. This is the Vance stuff. I was saying yesterday is kind of the hashtag Me Too, and maybe they're making more out of this to distract from something else. Maybe there's more to this. Maybe they're simplifying it with the Me Too stuff. Maybe there's more than meets the eye here, as this guy is needing to step down as well. So who knows? Like, I don't know what's happening, but it seems like very, very interesting timing for 2018 allegations to rear their ugly head about Vance. And shortly after being appointed, this guy's got to step down for unspecified allegations. So, I don't know. Is there any kind of connection? Not for me to say, but isn't it interesting, right? Courier Press is saying push on to exempt propane and natural gas from carbon tax. So this is what happened yesterday. And I saw tweets yesterday that said Trudeau was very angry and upset. And for some reason, I don't have them and I can't find them today. But anyway, I saw these tweets saying that he was upset that the Conservatives, NDP, and Bloc worked together to push to do this. And apparently the Liberals voted against this, but I don't have the tweets that say that. But regardless, push on to exempt propane and natural gas. I said that. The Canadian Propane Association is lobbying to have the federal government remove its carbon tax on natural gas and propane used by farmers. The Parliamentary Budget Office estimates that would save farmers $235 million over 5 years. The other thing that the Propane Association points out is, quote, by exempting gas and diesel but not allowing the same exemption for propane, the law actually encourages the increased use of gas and diesel. This is environmental nonsense, she said. Farm groups such as Grain Farmers of Ontario have been lobbying for an exemption for natural gas and propane used to dry grains. And they got it. So Bill C-206 was passed yesterday. Congrats, says Larry Maguire, to P. Lawrence MP on getting his bill through second reading in Parliament. C-206 will provide a full exemption on all farm fuels, including natural gas and propane, from the Liberal carbon tax. Even the Greens voted in favor. Only the Liberals opposed. Oh, look at that. I do have the Liberals opposing. So, yeah, I don't have the tweet that says they were mad about it, though. Anyway, vote result in the chambers, and C-206 passes. Yesterday, I also reported on the UBI, and that was in first reading. And I said, no, I'm not trying to fearmonger. This has a long way to go before it's law. And I see this now, and I hope that UBI doesn't get unanimously passed, because then that creates Freeland going on to try and figure out how to grow the economy with UBI, which basically takes whatever the UBI is and makes it valueless. It devalues the currency, right? Like, in my opinion, right? Oh, we just want to help people live. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. It doesn't help. It's not a good initiative, and I don't like where it's going. Anyway, regardless. Here's Dan Miser, and he says, we've just passed a Conservative bill at second reading to exempt farmers from paying the carbon tax on gasoline, propane, and natural gas. This is great news for Canadian farmers. Now, the other day I was talking about how this increased food prices is happening because carbon tax is being imposed on farmers, and drying your grain is getting more expensive, not less expensive. This puts a very big cog in the wheel of that Liberal plan, because the Liberals definitely wanted this to happen. And that's not good for our food production. That's not good for anything. It prices people out of being able to do it. And the Liberals can then say, well, it wasn't cost effective. It wasn't a successful program because it wasn't cost effective, not because of bad policy. But this shows bad policy, in my opinion. And so we've got movement that the Liberals don't like, and we've got farmers who are, again, profitable, at least to some extent. Now we've just got to get them able to move their goods because the rails are currently being used to move oil, right? Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I've got that sound. Hold on. It's worth it. It's worth the wait for the Price is Right noise. Over 400 times getting into genocide, because genocide, I said yesterday, there's going to be consequences for this. The consequences haven't really rolled out yet. I didn't like how the Conservatives did it. I thought it was self-serving without much of a plan going forward. They politicized the games through doing this, and that's explicitly forbidden around the games, right? But by the IOC, not forbidden in Canadian politics, but for the Olympic Games Commission. That's not supposed to happen. So the fact that people are talking about removing the Olympic Games from Beijing is politicization of the games. And so the Uyghur Muslim genocide vote did happen, and Dan Albus says over 400 times PM Trudeau has used some version of the words taking a stand or standing up in the House of Commons. Today, when actions mattered, this Prime Minister sat down, looked the other way, and abstained from taking a stand for the Uyghurs in China. That is not leadership. And he didn't even come and do it himself. He didn't come in and say, on behalf of the government, as the Prime Minister, I'm abstaining from this vote for cabinet. Right? Because he's the one who abstained. That's his choice. No, he sent in the astronaut, right? He sent in the astronaut to give the bad news, right? You don't want that soundbite out there. What's Justin Trudeau talking about 18 hours ago? He's talking about assault rifles, assault-style firearms. That's what he's talking about. These assault-style firearms, says Justin, are just some of the 1,500 models we banned last year. They were designed to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, and they do not belong in our communities. Last week, we took further action to get them off our streets. Not true. They just reduced sentences for gun crime, I think, is what happened last week. And also, if they were designed to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, why are police forces across Canada outfitted with those guns, the AR-15s, right? I can't square those two things. Interesting, right? Interesting. Is it the manufacturer's fault if their gun kills someone? No. Is it the manufacturer's fault if their vaccine kills someone? Pfizer? Oh, right? Oh. So if it is the gun, and I said no with the gun, but I should have said it is, right? Because they're trying to make it. There was a ruling by a judge the other day on the Danforth shooting victims could sue the gun manufacturer. And that's blaming the manufacturer for what somebody's done. But we can't sue the Pfizer manufacturer, the vaccine manufacturer, if you have a bad adverse event. If you put something in your arm and it kills you, no. But if somebody else shoots something and it hits you in the not arm and kills you, that's you can sue that manufacturer. Got it. The rules are clear as mud. Okay, since becoming Spencer Fernando's CPC leader, the respected Angus Reid survey shows O'Toole has gained no new supporters, while half of those who were previously undecided have now formed a negative opinion. Yeah, I think Aaron O'Toole is a big flop as the Conservative leader. That's not surprising. Who's winning in the big flop? It's not the NDP. Is Justin Trudeau winning? Is Maxime Bernier winning? I don't see that enthusiasm for Bernier that I saw previous to the 2019 election. I don't know if it's disillusionment with the process. I don't know if I don't know. But that fire that was there is in and not just Bernier, but from all over. Like before, you could feel it, and people were upset, and people were willing to talk about it, and people aren't willing to talk about it right now. They don't want to talk about it. Politics is second. Politics doesn't matter at this point in time. People are scared out of their tree. And people aren't willing to take a big risk at this point either, I don't think. And so they look at O'Toole and they say, not so good. Maybe people are looking. I've seen lots of people say they're taking another look at Bernier's party, at PPC. And you see the usual trolls come out to those threads. Oh, we can't split the vote, blah, blah, blah. Same old. But I think the Conservatives will hold their nose, vote for O'Toole, lose the election because not enough people will come to the party, and replace O'Toole after the election with an even more liberal leader. Like, sorry, but that's how I think it's going to go. That's it. That's how I think it's going to go. And I don't know if it's the effect of the virus that's chilling the political conversation in Canada. There are people who are very, very enthusiastic about Trudeau's response to this. They say that he's done a good job. I can't imagine how they can think that, but whatever. And there are people who don't like what Trudeau's done, but don't think that anybody else would have done a better job. I think a trained monkey would have maybe done a better job. So long as the monkey's handlers weren't directly employed by the CCP or something, like... Okay, moving forward. Holly Doan, emails. I vouch for Ellie, the ESDC, the Employment and Social Development Minister. Anita Oakville, Chief of Staff. Leslie Church, personally vouched for Liberal lobbyist and former CBC Bureau Chief seeking federal contract for his son. This is just how cronyism works in Canada. Cronyism is getting the job because of knowing somebody who's in the right place at the right time, right? And some of this can be explained with, well, I know him and I trust him, and look, he's in the industry, and he's just got to get his first start. Some of it is who you know, right? Some of it is luck. Some of it is timing. Some of it is, who knows what. But this looks like a little bit of cronyism, right? A little bit of, I'll vouch for this person, and this is, this person's son, and so on and so forth. Is that how we want positions to be filled? I don't know, but it seems like that's how positions are filled. So that's interesting to note, right? That's interesting. Slip of the tongue from the PEI. I believe it's PEI Premier. Hold on, let me get the clip queued up. Okay, it is the Premier of PEI, and here he's saying it's imperceptible, the influence that is going to be happening on our economy, etc. Here it is. I think it's very important. Here we go.
All of these benchmarks and indicators are reason for optimism. But the greatest reason for optimism is something far less tangible than GDP or population statistics. The greatest reason for optimism is more a matter of belief and attitude. Clearly, Islanders believe in a future beyond COVID-19, and I can assure you your government certainly does as well. But of equal significance to our future is the confidence that has been expressed by the third-party observers of the PEI economy and the financial picture. The fact that our growth was and will again be sustainable was recognized by the international bond rating agencies. All three, Moody's, Dominion Bond Rating, and Standard & Poor, acknowledged that we are going to have a new world order. Acknowledged that what we have going is a new economic order.
All of them acknowledge that what we are going to have is a new world order. I mean, new, what? What'd you say? I didn't say anything. What'd you say? New what order? Where are you? Where am I? So, New World Order, says the Premier of PEI, or, New Economic Order, whatever you want to call it, whatever the kids are saying these days. Choose your conspiracy theory, choose your favorite tinfoil hat. Haha, right? And, tinfoil hattie, why would New World Order sneak in there? Oh, I was just talking about the New World Order with my wife, because the show I was watching, like, I don't know. Excuse me, I don't know. But there's a lot of questions that I've got after that, right? Are you ready to get into some COVID? All right, COVID. Milhouse Van Houten, he's our resident data scientist and person I follow on Twitter. And he says, are you upset your new pandemic isn't going as planned? Dr. Davila and John Tory. Open Toronto now. And Toronto is still in the lockdown and maybe until May 8th. Possibly, right? But March 9th, I think, 8th or 9th, they're supposed to open up again. But interestingly enough, the other week I reported on, and I guess it was February 8th, Dr. Davila declaring a new pandemic. And I said, that's actually good news. It's rare to have a 100-year pandemic back to back, right? So if the first pandemic's over, this pandemic will be a more normal pandemic because, again, you don't have a 100-year flood back to back. Usually it doesn't work like that. And so when Dr. Davila declared this new pandemic, that was saying that it was going to rebound. The case numbers were going to increase again, and we were going to see high numbers, and it was going to be very scary. And instead, that really didn't happen. We've seen a reduction in we've seen the reduction in case numbers pretty consistently. Maybe there's this rebound here. I'm not sure if this black line is representative of the date, February 8th, but the return to mass infection, I don't even think we've had anything to justify this lockdown, really. Regardless, we've had a lot of people. We've had the hospitals at 5-year minimum or 5-year lows, right? If you look at the average over the past 5 years, 2020 is the low. Despite all of this, the City of Toronto extends the cancellation of in-person major events to July 1st. So, spoiler alert, what do you think is going to happen mid-June, coming up to July 1st when people are trying to plan events and open things up? They're going to say, oh, sorry, there's going to be a variant of concern, a mutation, a something else, and we can't open up again because we haven't suffered long enough. Not till 2027 when we can open back up again. Ridiculous. WDG Public Health, says wear the right kind of mask when you're at work, in a business, and around other people. This is new to me. Where's the data on this? They say a face shield is not a substitute for a mask. News to me. I said, since when? Since when? But it's news to me because when you have a situation where, like, I wore a face shield to the doctor, and I said they wanted me to wear a mask over with the face shield, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that, because I know that I have to breathe. Like, thanks, everyone. This is the only air intake hole on my body, okay? These, they don't intake air, okay? This does. And I'm not going to cover that up because I've read that there are adverse effects that I've not been informed about by public health. So this is a very interesting situation because they're now this is the education phase. They're going to phase out the face shield mask, and that's not good. I'm going to show you what happens when people think that they have a right to police my health choices, like wearing a mask or not. There was a guy in Canadian Tire who was attacked yesterday, but this is not responsible. This is not responsible. Here is the Telegram. They say the government's campaign to terrify people into compliance. Sorry, let me read the whole headline. The government's plan to terrify people into compliance with COVID rules was shameless and cruel. Shameless and cruel. And I think that applies here too. And Laura says the lockdown was unethical. The campaign of terror was unethical. Destroying the education of millions of children was unethical. The entire COVID fascist regime was unethical. Fascists didn't mask children. Do you know how dehumanizing masking is? Fascists didn't run a Milgram experiment on the entire province of a country, or the entire country for that matter. They didn't do that. They did some horrible things, right? But having the entire population institute masking of children, thereby inflicting harm on them, and I think that qualifies as some level of abuse. And they knew, the people implementing this, that humans would respond that way if somebody in authority tells them that they have to do something and they have to continue. It's for their good, their own good. We have to continue this experiment. Classic Milgram. They would know that the human would comply. They would have to follow the orders. That's what's happening here. It's unbelievable what's happening. The ethics of all of this have been thrown out the window. Here's the line, Brazil, and they're sharing ivermectin news, the BIRD meeting, and BIRD is the British Ivermectin Recommendation Development Panel. Now, things to note, if you're paid by, like, say you're paid by, it doesn't, Risperdal or Ritalin or any of the drugs that you'd use to whatever, or even like if you were working with elderly patients and there was a specific drug for an elderly patient, right? If you're on a committee that has that drug's name in the name, you're probably like pro that drug, right? So there's a reason to take it with a grain of salt. But no surprise, the British Ivermectin Recommendation Development Panel, with dozens of multinational scientists and doctors, issued a sweeping recommendation for the immediate global use of ivermectin. No one is surprised. In other news, who are those ice cream guys? Ben & Jerry's have issued a worldwide mandate for global use of ice cream, right? Like so, and specifically Ben & Jerry's. They say it will help with COVID. Not really, right? It's the same thing though. Okay. Here's Patrick Phillips. He says an excellent overview of the data on whether or not compliance with public health measures correlate with case numbers. They don't. Staying home is not saving our elderly. This is a study out of Australia, I think. Let me double check. Hold on. This is not out of Australia. This is a chart. This is looking at New York, Florida, and California and their outcomes. And basically, this is Florida, this is New York, and this is California. And New York and California both have had much stricter lockdowns, and Florida had an open policy. They had a short mask mandate and a short lockdown at the beginning, and they opened and stayed open. And their curve is less than New York and less than California. So very interesting stuff, very telling, and just in a single chart decimates the argument, right? Decimates the argument that the lockdowns are helpful at all. They're not. AHS, the Alberta Health Services, drops case, pays legal fees of Alberta Cafe that reopened in spite of COVID-19 rules. We heard about this. This is sanitizing that. This is saying that, oh, in light of the fact that Alberta opened up, we're not going to pursue this. And they talk about how isn't it weird that AHS paid their legal fees? And they speculate on why. But I thought it was interesting how they had to sanitize the whole interaction. I was wondering about, this is an interview with Robin Baber, and it was an interesting interview. 3 minutes is very quick too. They talk about the motion to defund or to have all MPs take curb level pay until the lockdowns are lifted. And Mr. Baber explains that what happened with the House Leader and him calling a vote on reducing Baber's pay to $500, but then the Speaker of the House said that that was an invalid motion and couldn't be pursued. So I thought that was interesting because I didn't know if he actually got his salary reduced. I was like, man, I'd ask him about that. So I'm glad he explained it. He explained they had an interesting conversation. I'd be interested to talk to Mr. Baber. Do you want to come on Speaking Moistly, sir? We can chat in my garage if you want. Anyway, maybe I'll reach out to him. That'll be interesting to do. So moving on. Who is going to go shopping at Canadian Tire? Not me anymore. This is 3 Canadian Tire employees attacking a guy because he's not wearing a mask. I'll play a little bit of it. Hold on. This is just crazy. Oh, it's not going to let me play it. It ends up that he's in a position where he's literally being choked out. And the response is very interesting. Like, there are people who are saying he deserved it. He should have been. No, this is absolutely, he's got a big lawsuit on his hands here. I think he's probably going to sue Canadian Tire, and he's probably going to sue each one of these people individually for not wearing a mask. If he says he's exempt, he's exempt. He doesn't have to prove anything. Honestly, this is unbelievable. And if we get a situation where the lawyer or the judge, says, no, he should have been wearing a mask, and there's legal precedent set, well, we're in we're in trouble. It doesn't matter either way what's going on. We're in a lot of trouble. So I could see them using this to drive home that you have to wear a mask, actually, and it actually better be the mask they tell you, right? Unbelievable. So Randy Hillier is talking about this, and a couple of people are responding, but Hillier says, time for people to rebel if small businesses or retail stores won't accommodate or be tolerant towards their customers. Use businesses like Amazon or others that do. Enough of this BS. And he's talking about the Canadian Tire attack there. And he says, and Chelsea says, the businesses are cowing to the hysterical mask zombies. I totally support boycotting businesses of any size that don't respect charter rights. And Dan Kelly says, a bizarre reaction from a provincial politician suggesting customer boycott small businesses that implement the rules imposed by governments. It's funny because Dan Kelly's ignoring the fact that Randy Hillier is fighting against what the government is doing. And this isn't a bizarre thing at all. The government is putting businesses in an impossible position, and you should be advocating for them, Mr. Kelly. The government is putting the businesses into position of enforcing their mask mandate when it's not constitutional. It's not appropriate. And businesses should not be put into that position, and you should be fighting for them. Australia, this is happening in Australia too. People are attacking people for protesting. I don't know if this is specifically mask related, but the police are enthused at beating up this person, right? And I mean, I think that the police can have protection, other police with mace standing there ready to take on anybody who's going to get close and stop them from assaulting these people, right? Like, they have a right to protest. What happened to that? Imagine if they were doing that to a Black Lives Matter protest. What would the media say, right? But because it's an anti-lockdown protest, that's just fine, right? Here is a guy out of San Francisco, and he says, I was just thinking about it. If it is revealed that a prominent voices against school reopening are taking sizable money from teachers' union, that isn't going to go over well. And I said, look up who Dr. Feisman is and what is reported about his massive conflict of interest. Some people cared. Sorry, man. The world just doesn't care that much. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of information out there that people should be angry about, but they don't have the capacity to even know the information, never mind think about it and come to the conclusion that they should be angry, never mind doing something about it. People are talking to Mr. Lisi, who's the Minister for Education in Ontario, and they say children and parents cannot miss 14 days of school work every time someone gets a runny nose. What is your plan to walk back the fear-mongering you've created? We can't mask our children indefinitely. They need to be kids and enjoy their lives and school experiences. What is going to happen during allergy season? Do you think masks are going to stop allergies? I'm just got my mask on here. Sorry, yeah, the mask is going to totally help with allergies. And if it doesn't help with allergies, how are you going to, are you going to say that the COVID is bigger than pollen? Because it's not, right? It's just silly. It's silly. Milgram, masking kids is terrible. Okay. 9 in 10 Toronto parents responding to a TDSB survey say they feel that schools are safe. I was talking about this with other people, with my parents the other day, and we all think that the unions are not helping our kids. The union's first job isn't education. The union's first job is to the teachers, right? And maybe the teacher's first job is to the kids, maybe. But if the union's beholden to making more money and getting more teachers and smaller class sizes equals more teachers, make no mistake, then they're going to use any crisis they can to continue these lockdowns to exacerbate their stated danger of employment, right? To get more money out of the system. And all that does is make education more expensive, not more safe. It doesn't make it more safe. Here's a good point by Brett. CTV News is reporting excessive isolation in Canada's prisons amounts to torture. Criminologists report. So then what does excessive isolation in Canada's long-term care homes amount to? How long is excessive isolation, right? 14 days, 30 days? On to vaccinations. Robin Urbach is reporting Toronto. Today's Canadian COVID-19 headlines so far include reports that travelers are skipping hotel quarantine because paying the fine is actually cheaper, and news that Ontario's vaccine booking portal won't be ready for another 3 weeks. And Chris Sully asks, do we really need a centralized vaccine booking portal? Well, Chris, how else do you itemize the undocumented workers and migrants? Right? If you don't have a centralized booking portal, how do you keep track of these people? Migrant and undocumented workers must have access to COVID-19 vaccine as part of Canada's immunization effort, advocates say. It's a good thing nobody really wants this thing. Does anybody actually really want the vaccine? I've heard people, I've seen people responding to leadership in the city in Guelph saying, oh, I've got my mom signed up and whatever. And I can't imagine looking at the adverse effects of this vaccine and thinking, yeah, the cost and the potential for a bad outcome is worth the risk because of the benefit I'm going to get from this. It's just not. You're still going to have to wear a mask. You're still going to have to be tested all the time, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. Here's Chris Sky. He says another reason not to comply. There is a quarantine screening officer charged with sexual assault and extortion. The screening officers visit travelers' quarantine locations to establish contact, confirm identity, and confirm that travelers are at the place of quarantine they identified upon entry into Canada to ensure that travelers are complying with mandatory 14-day quarantine. When the victim declined to pay, she was sexually assaulted by the accused. Yikes. Right? So that's not so good. Critical race theory. Critical race theory. I thought this was interesting. The city of Waterloo says Waterloo is now hiring a director of Indigenous Initiatives, Anti-Racism, Accessibility, and Equity. Apply online at March 26th. I responded to this, and I said, it was very explicit what I said, and it's poof, disappeared. Poof, gone. Right? But that's okay. I also retweeted it and said it here. Critical race theory is a racist theory. These people are trying to entrench racism. Here is how the Upper Grand District School Board deals with anti-racism and equity. Quote, any system built by white people is racist because it was built by white people. And there's a link to my 7-video report about critical race theory at the Upper Grand District School Board. This is concerning because it is... Well, this guy, this response here says, it's more than just that. A month of Black history, no mention of 40,000 slaves escaping slavery via the Underground Railway to Canada, no mention of slavery never being allowed in Canada, just white man bad, black man oppressed. Yeah, they're lying. They're lying, and they're not interested in equity or anti-racism. Anti-racism is code for, code for quite a lot. So I'll leave it there, but this kind of stuff is not meant to help. This kind of stuff is meant to actually, they're saying they're trying to dismantle racism while they're entrenching it further. And if you don't believe me, go and listen to what these racist equity leads at Upper Grand District School Board say very clearly, explicitly about white kids and white systems. How can you say to a child, anything built by a person who is white is inherently racist because it was built by a person who is white, and then say, can you please complete this report and hand it in? I know that I just taught you anything completed by somebody who has got white skin like you is inherently racist. But can you do it anyway? Really? You think so? So yeah, I think it's a whole bunch of horse shit, and I think that if you pay taxes in Waterloo, you should probably tell them what you think of it. And if you don't, maybe you should tell them what you think of it anyway. I think it's a whole bunch of horse shit. Okay. That's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out, what's the other website I have? CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. My goodness. I couldn't remember if it was .co or .com. I'm moving things around on my servers, so that's why I was blanking there. Sorry about that. Anyway, regardless, thank you for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.